Hello everyone. I can't believe it, but I am starting my last round of indoor seeds for the season. So these are my 4-week before last frost seeds. I use the middle of May as my safe date to move plants outside, but that will change depending on our weather forecast. So these are my 4-week seeds, all of my zinnias, which I have too many, and then some of my compact fruits and vegetables. Now, one issue is that I have ran out of Jiffy peat pellet trays. I did not count correctly. So I'm basically going to run around and also try to find any nursery containers I can to plant up some of these seeds. But what I'll do is I'm gonna go through the varieties I'm growing first. I will let all of my pellet trays soak. I will give you some updates and answer some questions on the seedlings that are currently growing. And then we just wait until these can all be planted outside. So let's go over my zinnias. I do have a more in-depth zinnia haul video that I will link down below. But as a refresher, I am trying some new varieties this year. Now these first 3 are supposed to be powdery mildew resistant, and that is what kills my zinnias every year, so fingers crossed. But I have the double Zahara cherry, double Zahara salmon, and then the Aurora. So those are the 3 that should be more resistant to powdery mildew. So we'll see how those do in my garden. And then another new one that I'm trying, I think it's new for this year, is the ballerina zinnia. And I'm pretty sure this is a taller one. Let me see how tall this gets. 30 to 40 inches. So those are the new ones I'm doing. Then I'm doing one of my favorite types, the Benary zinnias. I have the Benary Giant Bright Pink, Benary Giant Coral, Benary Giant Wine, and then my Benary Giant Mix, which is what got me started on the Benary zinnias in the first place. So the mix is a mixture of seeds, and basically when I grow one from the mixture that's a color I really like, I find it on the Johnny Seed website and then order that specific packet. So when I start these, I have no idea what color they're going to be. But these are the tallest ones that I'm growing. They get between 40 and 50 inches. Then I have all of my Queenie Lime / Queenie Lemon series. I have Queenie Red Lime, Queenie Lemon Peach, Queenie Lime Orange, and Queenie Lime with Blush. Now last year, I do remember the germination rate on the Queenie series being not as good as the other zinnias. Usually zinnias, I have really great germination rates. I think I had to sow even more seeds for some of my Queenie. So I'm gonna oversow and hope for the best with these. Then I have 4 kind of random zinnias. I'm doing 2 from Floret. I have the Alpine Glow zinnias and the Precious Metals. I don't think she's selling any seeds this year. And then I have 2 that I grew last year as well, Zinnia Envy and Zinnia Mazurkia. So those are all the zinnias I'm going to grow. I'm still deciding how many of each based on the number of pellets I have, but zinnias grow super fast, which makes them great even for direct sowing. So if I run out of space in my pellets, I'll just plan to direct sow some in the garden, assuming I have some space to put them. And then for my compact crops that I'm going to start, I have 2 melons. I have the hybrid cantaloupe, which is Sugar Cube, and then I have the watermelon Sugar Baby. I have my zucchini round, which are the cutest little round zucchinis. I have my Space Master cucumber, and then I have the Bush Cherry Patio Choice Yellow. And this is the one where it says it reaches 18 inches tall, but I think all of you that have grown it says it got to between 2 to 3 feet. So I will plan to put these in their own separate pot. I don't know yet if they'll be up here or on the garage deck. So with that, I'm gonna let my pellets continue to soak, and let me give you some updates and do some tasks on the seedlings that are currently growing. The first task that I have to do is to water this seedling tray. So I check my seedling tray every morning. I just give the pellets a little squish. I don't want them to dry out completely, but when they feel like they are very close to being dried out, that's when I'll water them. And I did get some questions on watering specifically in these trays, so I wanted to show you what I do in case you've run into any of these issues. The first issue that I have experienced in the past is, let's say I water from this side of the tray, I'll pour all the water in, I assume that it goes all the way down, but in reality, it's getting absorbed by all of these pellets before it reaches the end, and then these at the end will dry out. And I have been negligent enough in the past that I have killed some of my seedlings that way because I was watering the tray, but it wasn't getting all the way down. So now what I do is water from multiple sides. So I will water basically in the center of each side. So on the left, I'll go up here, kind of in the center front. I will go over here in the center back and then go over here on this side. The other question I've been asked is, do I over or under water for these? So I have in the past mostly killed plants from overwatering. So in general, in the garden or with my houseplants, I tend to err on the side of underwatering. But here I want to make sure the pellets are absorbing the right amount of water. So basically, once I've watered, I will make sure there is still some water sitting in the tray right now. And I'm going to give these maybe like 15 minutes to absorb the water, and then I will use a baster to remove any excess. So since I can take the excess water out, which is hard to do with houseplants or in the garden, I do go a little bit towards overwatering these, but not so much that I'm filling these to the top of the tray. So I'm gonna set these over. Oh, and these are my 6-week seeds. I have balsam, and then I have some China asters. So I'm gonna move this to the side. We'll see how much gets absorbed. And if there is any excess, I will then show you how I get it out of the tray. Now let me go through the other seedling trays. I don't have any other ones I have to water, but I do have some more tasks to do, and I wanted to give you an update. So this is my tray of all Gomphrena plants. I started these in mid-March, so they have been growing for about a month. And last week I thinned most of them. And I think you can see these grow, all seedlings grow so quickly once you thin them because they are no longer competing for space in the pellet. So what I have to do today is basically just thin the rest of them. I have fertilized once already. I'm fertilizing once a week. I don't have to do that yet. I'm gonna do that this Friday. But now that they do have, again, their second set of leaves or first set of true leaves, these I am fertilizing. We'll take a look. I don't know if any of the rest of my trays are ready yet to be fertilized. So let's thin the rest of these, and again, saving the seedlings I cut so I can toss them into the garden and not feel bad about thinning them. Sometimes these are so close together that I can't tell if they are one or two, and then I want to be very careful cutting that one right next to it. Now this tray, I do have almost 100% germination. That pellet is the only one that didn't germinate. Usually for Gomphrena, I have pretty good germination rates in general, but they are, again, slower growing. Like these are not gonna be probably as tall when I move them out to the garden as my zinnias, which I haven't even started yet just because the zinnias grow tall so quickly. So if yours are still relatively low to the bottom of the tray, that's normal. Again, I have been growing these now for about a month. So this tray has my Didiscus, it has feverfew, and then it has 2 different varieties of cosmos. And I made a mistake. I had this in the bathroom, again, because that's where it's warmest with the dome on. And one day I saw that the cosmos were starting to pop through the pellet. So I was like, okay, I'll wait till tomorrow. And then I came back tomorrow, and the next day they were already getting a little bit leggy. So I put them directly under the light. So what I'm going to do right now is try to thin the most leggy ones and leave the tallest ones in there, but they have course corrected. They were almost growing off to the side, just trying to find some source of light. These are all almost the same height, so I'll leave that one in there. Now the feverfew is starting to grow way too small to thin any of those. And then the Didiscus, I'm still waiting for those to germinate. But this was just last week, so I'm not getting nervous yet if I don't see germination. And then this is my other tray of China asters. This tray, for some reason, I mean, the germination isn't terrible, but it's not as good as the first tray that I just watered. I don't know why. Some of these seeds are from 2025, some are from a couple years. It's not like all of these seeds are a little bit older. So I'm just keeping the top moist to see if any more sprout. And then I am going to thin some of these, but some of them, if the seedlings are kind of far apart, I might let them grow for a little bit and see if I can divide them to make up for the seedlings that I don't have. So having said that, anything that is super close together, like I'm gonna take out these in the middle, and now I have 2 that potentially I can divide because they do have a little bit of space between them. Now these are just starting to get their first set of true leaves. They are still a little bit smaller than I like to start fertilizing, so we'll see how big these are in a couple days when I fertilize the Gomphrena. If they look large enough, I will go ahead and fertilize these. If not, I'll wait till next week. The pellets have expanded, so let's start my zinnias. I can't believe I'm already here. So I'm gonna start with the newer ones to me, the ones that are supposed to be powdery mildew resistant, and the ballerina zinnia. And since these, again, are supposed to be resistant, I think I'm gonna sow 4 of each. My plan is to put these in my center raised bed, and hopefully they survive longer than zinnias have in the past. And then that way my center raised bed stays full. So I'm gonna do 4 of all 4 of these. Again, not gonna go too in depth about how I use these pellet trays, but I will link that video down below. But right now I am just opening up the netting. Now we're gonna go ahead and make our holes. These want to be planted a 1/4 inch deep. So I use my 1/4 inch marker on my brush and put the seeds in. I usually do, even though these are new seeds, 3 per hole, just to increase the chance of germination. Then we label before we forget, and I'm gonna go ahead and fill the rest of this tray. Oh, I did wanna mention, another reason I'm putting the Zahara in my center raised bed is these are also shorter than the other zinnias I have. So these are only gonna get to between 12 and 20 inches. And if I put very tall plants in the center raised bed, which I've done in the past, I can't see as much of the garden on the other side. So I wanna have a little bit shorter plants in there this year as well. So this is my first completed tray of zinnias. I'm going to do the rest of the zinnias just like I did this, and then we'll jump back in and sow my compact crops. We'll see if I have enough pellets or if I have to start finding nursery pots. All of my zinnias have now been planted, so we're gonna move on to the compact crops. But first, I have now let this tray soak for long enough where I know that the pellets have taken up as much water as they can, and I can tell that by just touching the top and seeing that it is very wet. So now what I need to do is get the remaining water out of this tray. If there's no water left, you're good. You might want to actually check if you need to add some more if the top doesn't feel wet, but you don't want your plants just sitting in water because that can lead to root rot. So what I used to do was take this relatively flimsy tray, run over to the shower or sink, and pour it in there. That would oftentimes end up with me spilling on the floor. And then someone said, why don't you just use a baster? And that was life-changing. So now all I do is I'll stick this in here, I'll suck up the water, and I will put it in some sort of container that will be much easier for me to get to the sink, or I might just pour the excess out somewhere into the garden. The water's been emptied out. This is now going to go back under the light. After planting my zinnias, I actually do have a whole tray left for my compact crops. And based on how many I think I'm gonna grow, I might have some extra space. So I might see what other seeds I have to pop in here. But let's go ahead first. We will open up the netting. So I'm gonna start with my melons, my cantaloupe, and my watermelon. And these wanna be planted a 1/2 inch deep. Now I'm gonna do 4 of each of these, which probably is a little overboard, but I have some ideas for where I can fit 8 total melon plants. We'll see if that works out. So now I'll go down to my 1/2 inch mark that I drew onto my my paintbrush, and we will sow our cantaloupe and our watermelon. These melons really do taste a lot better than from the grocery store. They just have more flavor. I even dislike honeydew in general because it always just tasted like slightly sugary water to me, but I grew my own honeydew melons. They were really pretty. They were called Snow Leopard, and I actually like the taste of them, not as much as watermelon or cantaloupe, which is why I'm still favoring these over honeydew, but I realized how much of a difference it can be eating a fresh melon versus one from the store. Now for my zucchini, my patio choice yellow tomatoes, and my cucumbers, I'm only gonna do 2 cells of each because honestly, I probably only have space for 1 of each, but I will find a space for 2. So I don't need that many. So I'm not going to start that many. And then I think I'll have 2 spaces left for something else. All right, all of my crops that I'm going to start inside are sown. And I just decided to do some stock. This is the Deep Apricot Quartet stock. I wasn't going to do it, or I was maybe going to direct sow just because it doesn't flower as long as some of the other plants, and I would prefer, again, plants that flower longer in my garden, but I'll find somewhere to stick them. hopefully. So all of my seeds that I'm starting inside are now sown, which is kind of sad, but also really exciting. So I'm going to let these all continue to grow. We have about another month, again, weather dependent, before I start to plant these out in the garden. I don't know, last year we got warm really quickly. This year I feel like it's been warmer than average and then colder than average, so who knows what's going to happen. But I'm gonna sprinkle vermiculite on all of the seed trays that I just started, put them underneath the grow light, and then we will get to planting. I think the next few videos we're gonna start work on the garage deck garden. So let me know if you have any questions, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.